Hi everyone, I'm Sam. I'm the founder and the CEO of Delenta. Welcome to another episode of Delenta Elevate. We have an amazing topic to talk about today. I know a lot of coaches come into this industry with such a purposeful mind, and sometimes you tend to forget about building even a business because you're so much empathetic about your clients, etc. So what we're going to talk about today is so special. We are going to talk about how to market your coaching business and comfortably, confident, and competently. So, why we talk about this topic today is because of the one fact, because so many coaches, like I said, like I mentioned before, tend to forget about the idea of building the business. They seem to building a practice. So today we have a special guest who's going to basically share this information with you. She has so many years of experience in coaching industry, and she's a previous teacher actually. So she's Sarah Short. She's a founder of the Coaching Revolution. Sarah, very nice to have you here.
Hi, how are you?
It took like a couple of seconds to basically appear. Uh, yeah,
Here I
probably
am.
the
Hi, how are you?
I can see you all right now. Brilliant. So, Sarah, you have so much experience in this industry. I love the fact that the tagline, turning qualified coaches into well-paid professionals. Wow.
Mm.
I mean, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, isn't it? In
That's
one minute.
exact. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
And you're ICF accredited, so of course you have so much knowledge about the coaching ethics and the aspects of the coaching. At the same time, the aspects of the business development, the strategies that you somewhat talk about in your stage. I've seen so many times you're speaking in the ICF chapters, in conferences, etc. So I'm so grateful that you're spending next 30-45 minutes with us sharing all that golden nuggets with us, right? So thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome.
So before just dive into the actual presentation of Sarah, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait. I'm going to quickly give you a background to Delenta. Delenta is a technology that we created for coaches from starting from the school to organizations that have hundreds of coaches can benefit by bringing all the technologies into one place. So that is what we do. We basically bring your Zoom integration, your notes, clients, file stores, all that into one place so you can focus on your coaching business and especially executing the strategies that Sarah going to share with us in another few minutes. So that is going to be the priority. So we take care of all the admin bits and the technology aspects. So it's going to be great. So if you're looking for a solution like us, please feel free to book a demo with us, and we will love to basically walk you through the platform. So Delenta Elevate. This is so interesting because this is one of the great initiatives that I'm proud of, with our team that we created during the pandemic. So again, like I said earlier, a lot of coaches come into this industry with such a purposeful mind. Sometimes you're coming from a corporate background, and you tend to think about the business aspect in a different angle to altogether. So that itself sometimes can slow down the business development or growth of your business. So that's what we try to sort of help you with, not only from the technology tool point of view. We bring in these wisdom from our community or coaches, practitioners in the industry into this stage called Dinner to Elevate, so they can share their knowledge and experience with you, and that way you can elevate your coaching business. So on that note, Sarah, I'm going to jumping into today's topic, right? So can I quickly ask you, right, why this topic is so important, and also a little bit of background about yourself, if you don't mind, because I know those two go very hand in hand, isn't it?
Yeah, they
Before
do.
you start, actually, before you start, I want to tell you this as well to the audience that we met, a few months ago through one of our friends, and when we first had our discussion, we kind of share the same kind of a mindset. We're so the topic that we're talking about, right? How can we elevate these coaching business? These individuals are amazing, and how can we basically have a sustainable business model around it? And I mean, I still remember you going about how this can be really done in a very methodical way. And that's what you're going to share us today. So if you could give it from your own words, that would be wonderful, Sarah.
Okay, so let me start by saying the coaching revolution was started by three of us. Now the coaching revolution, I run the coaching revolution because very sadly, one of the three of us passed away and another one went off to do something else. So the coaching revolution is me and my ever-growing team of mentors, all of whom joined as clients. So people, qualified coaches, come to the coaching revolution and they say, I am a really, really good coach. You know, I get great results for the clients that I have. When I was doing my coaching qualification, you know, all my tutors said I was doing really well. And I was kind of under the impression that if my coaching was good enough, my clients would find me. And that's just not the way it's worked. Now, back in 2017, when Paul and Hank and I were sitting in the kitchen, I had recently discovered the ICF global statistic that says that 82% of coaching businesses will fail in their first 2 years.
Wow.
Now, that's a shocking statistic. That's like, if you think of the cohort that you did your coach training with, that means more than 4 out of 5 of them will give up and go back to working for somebody else, which I think is a shocking waste of a good coach. And here's an interesting thing about coaches. I have never met a coach who thinks coaching is okay. I have met disaffected teachers. I've met disgruntled engineers. I've met fed up doctors. I've met really brassed off lawyers, but I've never met a brassed off coach. Coaches love coaching. We are lit up inside by it. We absolutely love it. And because I believe coaching is a superpower, it is transformational. It transforms lives. We should be wearing our knickers on the outside. We are superheroes. And because I feel so strongly about how wonderful coaching is, I believe everybody should have the opportunity to be coached. And that is not going to happen if we don't have coaches who can actually build financially viable coaching businesses so that once they have all their financial bases covered, they can then do some of this pro bono work without panicking that they're giving their coaching away for free and that, you know, they need to earn a living there. You know, get your financial bases covered first by learning how to market your business properly and learning how to attract the kind of clients that you want. And when you've got your financial basis covered, then we can start coaching people who don't perhaps have the funds to afford professional fees. So that's kind of where we've come from. And if we go back to that 82% statistic, for a start, it's actually fairly normal for small businesses. You know, 80% of small businesses will fail in the first 5 years in the UK. 82% of coaching businesses fail in the first 2 years. I used to think that meant that for the first 2 years, everything went swimmingly, and then something went horribly wrong and it all went belly up at month 23, and that was a shame. But that's not the case at all. The 2 years part is a red herring, because the truth about those 2 years is that that's as long as the average coach can last without running out of time, energy, momentum, and frankly, money, and just going, I've done everything I can think of to find paying clients. The coaching industry is saturated. I'm going to go back to work for somebody else. And it's not true. The coaching industry is not saturated unless you're trying to market to anybody who, fill in the blank after. If you're trying to market to anybody who has a goal, anybody who wants to overcome a limiting belief, anybody who, to a generic audience, then yes, the coaching industry is saturated. So the secret is to counterintuitively do the complete opposite. Because when marketing is a really interesting thing. Marketing 20 years ago was a profession, like accountancy, lawyers, you know, all of it. You paid a marketer to do your marketing. And then with the advent of social media, all of a sudden we all feel like we know exactly what you should do to market. You cast your net wide and you make sure that as many people as possible know what you do, and then your clients will appear. And in actual fact, you talk to any marketer and the exact opposite. Very counterintuitive, but the exact opposite is true. The more you focus your marketing message the more successful you will be. And that is where coaches get stuck, because they get scared that by focusing their coaching on a target audience, and the other word for that is niche, and coaches found that word quite scary, that by focusing, what that means is that they are kind of losing the opportunity to work with all these other people. And in actual fact, that's not the case. And I can explain why, but I'll just pause for breath and take a mouthful of water.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So on that note, like, so just to put things into the perspectives of from the coaching point of view, this was 82%. Sarah, do you know, because there are two aspects, right? Two camps, right? You have certified coaching camp, like,
Mm-hmm.
so basically people talking about, academia, like you need to have that
Yep.
the theoretical knowledge, which is great. Like, it's wonderful that we elevate, I mean, we ourselves basically promote that aspects of it. And so as part of the ICF partners, we encourage that, right? And then you have the other aspect of the business, which is more sort of a, hey, you need, like you said, financially, business development, strategically, the communication aspects. So the 82% is like, are we talking about all the certified coaches, or do we know that number, that sort of a
We're talking
combination
about
of
we're
both?
talking about qualified coaches, yeah. We're talking about
Wow,
people who've taken a
wow,
coaching qualification,
wow.
and we don't work with people who don't have a professional qualification. People
Yeah,
have to either be already have a qualification or be in the process of taking one for us to even be remotely. We don't work with people who just call themselves a coach.
no,
You have to be a coach.
yeah,
And we turn qualified coaches into well-paid professionals because we teach them how to market themselves without crossing any core values, without doing anything that makes them feel squirmy or salesy or pushy or any of those horrible things that people get upset and anxious about when they think about the idea of selling their coaching services. Because what we want is for the idea that if our coaching is good enough, our clients will find us, to be true. But if you think about it, if your client doesn't know you exist, how
true.
can they possibly find you?
Hmm. Hmm.
How can they find you? They can't, can they?
That's true. That's very true. I mean, that's some of the coaches that we find that to speak to us, in our community, and you can sort of see that the development of the coaching, of course, the sort of the knowledge and experience, and that's so important. At the same time, you can't sort of show your blind eye to the development, to the marketing aspect or the communication aspect, isn't it? So the how you basically position yourself. So on that note, I'm basically gonna listening in the background, Sarah, and probably if you have any questions, I'm going to come back and ask you some questions. So, guys,
Okay.
just audience, please do send your questions, comments, and I'm here to sort of moderate and sort of interrupt Sarah and ask those questions from her. So feel free to send your questions our way, and also follow up through social media for more events like this. So on that note, Sarah, I'll let you do the presentation, and I'll be
Okay.
on the background, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam. So, hello. I think we've already touched upon why coaches need a target audience or a niche, but I know that the resistance to the idea of niching is huge. And so I want to kind of explain a few things to you. Firstly, your coaching business is split into two distinct halves, kind of like an old-fashioned weighing scale. On one side of your business, you have all of the skills that are your delivery skills. So the skills that you use when you're sitting in front of your client. So on this side go your coaching qualification and any practitioner certificates you have, or facilitation certificates, and any extra kind of, all of the stuff that, Myers-Briggs and everything to do with skills that you use when you're in front of the client. They all go on this one side of the scale. And on the other side of the scale is an utterly different but equally important set of skills. And these are the skills that you need to create the opportunities to do that delivery. And these skills are sales and marketing skills. Now, I know that if I say sales and marketing skills to a room full of 100 coaches, 99 of them get curly toes. They go, oh, no, 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 I don't like the idea of that at all. And the reason for that is because we're never taught how to market. And like I mentioned before, we all have this idea that it's intuitive, that you cast your net wide and you appeal to as many people as possible. And the bottom line is that's not how marketing works. Let me give you an example. 2 clothing shops in the UK. We have Primark and we have Harvey Nichols. Now, Primark is a cheap, fast fashion, fast turnover store that's designed at the young, trendy, almost disposable fashion end of the market. And Harvey Nichols is the absolute opposite end of that. Harvey Nichols sells designer, it's all kind of muted lighting, quiet, spread out, and they have utterly different clients. Now, Primark isn't ever going to market their stores in Vogue because their client doesn't read Vogue. And equally, Harvey Nichols is never going to advertise in, I don't know, Loaded magazine because their client doesn't read Loaded magazine. And so what I'm saying here is this idea of niche marketing isn't something that I've dreamt up. This is how marketing works across all industries globally. Every single successful business advertises to segments or target audiences. Now, I've just seen somebody says, I was going to cover that very question, Ariadne. Can a coach have more than one niche? Not at the same time. No, you start off with a single niche. And the reason for this is that if I said, okay, I've got 2 niches, this niche over here, I work with retired people, and this niche over here, I work with mums returning to the workplace. How do you market to those 2 people at the same time if you think that a mum that's returning to the workplace is going to need to hear a completely different thing than somebody who wants coaching through retirement? And if the mum sees you talking about retirement, she's going to think you're not for her. And if the retirement coach sees you talking about mums returning to the office, then they're going to think you're not for them. And so what you need is a target audience and a really good understanding of a particular problem that you choose. You choose your niche. It doesn't find you, you choose it. So you choose a niche, and it needs to be a niche that you understand. There's no point going, like me, my background is teaching and sales. I've always had I had my own drama school. I had my own English language school. And so my job has always been a combination of teaching and filling classes, so sales and education. So if I suddenly decided that I wanted to coach executives, I don't have any way of talking to executives in a way that they would think that I understood them, because I don't understand them. I would be far more successful marketing to, as I did when I had my coaching business, women with small businesses who were running businesses from home when their children were small. One of the reasons that I was so successful in that niche is because I was once a mum of young children who ran a business from home. And I know the challenges that mums with young children have when they're running a business from home, to do with time management and all kinds of things. And it meant that I could talk to them about the problems that they had in a way that they knew that I understood. And when I say talk about the problems that they had, the problem that you need to identify, you need to choose a problem that the people in the target audience that you want to work with, a problem that they have that your coaching can help them to solve, that keeps them awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. It needs to be a really, really, really big problem, because if it's a minor niggle, then people won't pay a professional rate to be coached over a problem that really isn't that big a problem. It needs to be something enormous. And it could well be that you're, let me give you some examples. Let's stick with the idea of a chap who's coming up for retirement, who has had the structure of his working life, his kind of 9 to 5 job, his whole life. He's thoroughly enjoyed it, and now retirement's approaching. He's been aiming for it for a long time. It seemed like a very exciting thing, but now that it's within sight, he's starting to feel anxious. And his 3 o'clock in the morning problem is, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? How will I cope without the framework that has existed for me for 40 plus years? What are my spouse and I going to talk about? What if we run out of conversation after a fortnight? How many rounds of golf can I play? I am scared at the idea of this untethered life once every parameter of my working day is gone. And that's a really powerful thing that coaching could help with. And it is a very real fear that somebody in that position could have. And if we go back to our mum, who's going to return to the workplace following her maternity leave, she might be thinking, everything's changed while I've been on maternity leave. What if I can't do my job anymore? And my confidence is at an all-time low. I'm really worried that I'm going to get back and I'm going to be anxious about my children. And what if that means I'm going to be a lousy mother because I'm not with them? And what if they're sick and I'm not sure? And all of those kind of 3 a.m. worries that a mum going back to work might have, they are all things that coaching can help with. And they are very real worries that have an impact on her life, the same as the retiree. They will be having an impact on his life. Apart from anything else, it's keeping him awake at night, it's keeping her awake at night, and that in itself is an impact. Now, remembering these two sides of your business, on this side, when you're coaching, there's nothing in that relationship between you and your coachee where you bring your knowledge and experience to the fore. That's not appropriate for a coach in a coaching conversation. However, on this side of your business, the creating the opportunities to do the coaching, you absolutely can bring your knowledge and experience into play, because your marketing needs to position you as an authority within your niche. And coaches will say to me, well, I don't want to talk about problems. That's not how my coaching goes. I use positive psychology. I'm a very positive and uplifting coach. That's your delivery side. On your marketing side, you need to recognize that people buy for one of two reasons. They buy to fulfill a need or to solve a problem. And in the case of coaching, they buy to solve a problem. And so your job is to identify a problem which is so big, people are willing to pay a professional rate. Now, there is another, just to touch upon, there's another element that you need to consider, which is they need to be able to afford to pay a professional rate. An ideal client is not ideal if they can't afford to pay you. Now, I'm not saying that means that people who can't afford to pay shouldn't get coached. As I said at the very beginning, what coaches need to do is have a host of clients to cover their financial bases so that then they can do the pro bono stuff. But while you're building your coaching business, your coach needs to be able to pay for your coaching. So your niche needs to have within it a demographic that can afford to pay a professional rate for coaching, who have a problem that's keeping them awake at night, that's something that's so pressing and impacts on their lives so much that they absolutely are prepared to pay a professional rate for coaching, for your coaching. And you need to be able to articulate that you understand the problem. You understand the problem. You understand how it's showing up in their lives, how it's manifesting, if you will, in their lives. And this is what your client needs to hear. Your client needs to hear that you already understand the problem that they've got. There's a marketing acronym, which is AIDA, A-I-D-A. And I like to think of that final A, the last A, being on the very tip of your nose, and the first A being in the outer reaches of the universe, as far away from you as you can possibly get. And that acronym stands for, the first A is for awareness. And awareness is when you haven't been visible at all as a coach. And so you start to become visible to your chosen niche. I'll explain to you later how you become visible, but you start to become visible to your chosen niche, and they become aware of you. They become aware that you exist, and they become aware because they start to see the things that you write, the things that you say, they hear you talking, maybe if you're, I don't know, speaking at an event or a networking meeting, if that's an appropriate venue, or on social media, wherever they are, they hear you and they think, oh, that's interesting. He or she's talking about me. That's me that's got, I have that problem. Gosh, this is really interesting. And then they go from the awareness to the interest. So AI, the I is for interest. And that's where they start to actually go, oh, where is that coach again? Where is that person who keeps talking about things that feel like they're walking around inside my head and can read my thoughts? And so they start to actively look for you. The D, which is the desire, is where it starts to become so pressing for them, the fact that you are uncannily talking about exactly their situation, that the final A is that they take action. And what action do they take? Well, with coaches, the action that they take is they hop into your diary. The action that they take is the action that we ask them to take, which is come and have a conversation with us. Now, most coaches that I've ever spoken to say to me, if I can sit down with somebody for half an hour or 45 minutes, then, they usually want to become a client. It's getting them to sit down with me in the first place. How do I find people to sit down with me in the first place? And that is exactly what this marketing process does. It attracts people towards you and generates inbound inquiries. So an inbound inquiry is when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I keep seeing the things that you're saying and you are talking about me. Can we have a conversation, please? Now, an inbound inquiry is, for coaches, it's the Holy Grail. That there is no more wondering, kind of how am I going to persuade somebody to sit down with me? This isn't what I thought I was going to be doing. So coaches I speak to say, I was under the impression that providing that my coaching was really good, was good enough that my clients would find me, that I would find clients by word of mouth. And it's just not happening the way that I thought it was happening. It would happen. And the bottom line is that you have to have quite the reputation within your niche for people to start referring people to you. It does happen. Referral business does come, but you have to have generated a significant amount of business yourself in order for that to happen. Now, there's always but I got a client by referral. Yeah, you did, the one. But if we're talking about a steady stream of inbound inquiries, then you need to be actively marketing, not by talking about the coaching process. I can help you reach goals. I can help you overcome limiting beliefs and mental barriers. Nobody cares about that stuff. Nobody cares about that stuff. What they care about is what's in it for them. So they don't want to hear about the coaching process. Nobody buys processes. They buy outcomes. People buy results. And so what you need to be talking about is what their lives will look like when they no longer have this problem that's keeping them awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. There you go. Yeah, people don't buy outcomes even. People don't buy outcomes. People don't buy processes. People buy results. Stop talking about the coaching process, because nobody, apart from other coaches, care about the coaching process. We care a lot, but our clients don't, or certainly not in the beginning. And part of the reason that they don't is because they don't know what coaching is. You must all have been in a situation where somebody says, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a coach. And people, one of two things. They either don't have a clue what we do, or they think they know exactly what we do, but they're wrong. I've had somebody say to me, oh, you're a coach. What? Netball? No, not netball. So what happens with coaches is somebody says, what do you do? They say, I'm a coach. They go, oh, right. I clearly don't understand. And so the coach then starts trying to explain. I ask really good questions and, powerful listening, and they don't care. Clients don't care about that. They only care about what's in it for them. And so as a coach, you have to be able to articulate what's in it for them, which goes back to, if you're trying to work with everybody, trying to coach everybody in the world, you can't articulate what's in it for them. Whereas if you have a very specific target audience with a very specific problem that's keeping them awake at night, then you absolutely can articulate what's in it for them. You can say, if this is your problem, and this is how it's impacting in your life, and you are thinking this when you're lying awake at 3 a.m., this is what your life will look like without that problem. And if you're wishing that you didn't have that problem anymore, then you and I should probably talk. And it's called attraction marketing, but I don't like that phrase, because somewhere people have got it mixed up with the law of attraction. And there's this idea that if you kind of just wish for it enough, it'll happen. And it's just not true. There is a lot of solid, hard work that needs to be done to define your niche, to identify an ideal client within that niche, to get very, very clear on what their 3 a.m. problem is, and then finally to be where they are on and offline. Because you can have the very best marketing message in the world, but if you're not somewhere where the kind of client you want to work with is also, then they won't hear you. And you will be talking to an empty room. And that's the last thing you want to do as a marketer. And make no mistake, if you want to have a financially viable coaching business, you need to accept that some of your time you'll be coaching and some of your time you'll be marketing. And you will be spending, certainly in the beginning, much more time on the marketing than you are on the coaching. More than 50-50 in the beginning. Now, if you market in this way, we've now covered why you should niche and what your client needs to hear. They need to hear you talking about a problem that they have and how it's impacting on their lives. Speaking your client's language is what I touched on earlier about making sure that you are talking to a kind of client that you know something about. So you're not plucking a niche that's like, if I suddenly decided I wanted to coach brain surgeons, they would very quickly realize that I didn't know anything about what was keeping them awake at 3 a.m. I don't know anything about what keeps a brain surgeon awake at 3 a.m. Unless maybe they're coming up for retirement, when I can probably hazard a guess, or unless they've been off work on maternity leave and now they're coming back to work, and again I can probably hazard a guess. But your niche should come from your own knowledge and experience. And so sometimes a niche may be an industry that you've worked in, or a profession that you've worked in, a segment of an industry or profession that you've worked in. And sometimes your niche might actually be a younger version of yourself, because a good place to start if you're really struggling is by saying, well, what was I doing when I found coaching? What was it that was going on in my life that made such a massive difference to me that, back to coaching is transformational, that my life was transformed by it, so much so that I decided I wanted to become a coach, that I wanted to go and spend a lot of money to take a coaching qualification so that I could help people too. What was that younger person, that younger version of you struggling with? Because you'd be able to talk very authoritatively to that younger version of yourself now. So there are lots of places that you can go to look for a niche, but please don't think that you don't need one, because for every coach that succeeds with a niche, there are more, out of every 5 coaches, the one that will succeed will have a target audience or a niche. They will. Now, if you think about the Delenta platform and your profile page, which is kind of like a mini website, isn't it? What you don't want to do is talk about you on that page. Oh, this is me. This is the kind of coaching qualification I've got. These are the kind of, this is what my clients have said about me. I can work with all these different kinds of people. What you should be saying on that page is what you do for the kind of clients that you work with. So what's in it for them? Because that's what they're interested in. And when coaches finish coach training school, one of the things that they do straight away, unless they've spoken to me, in which case I tell them not to do that, is to say, don't build a website. Because coaches finish coach training school and they build a website and it's all about them. It's about their coaching philosophy. It's about their coaching journey. It's about the different packages they have. It's about all the different people they can work with. And nobody wants to read that stuff. Any website like that has a very big bounce rate. A bounce rate is I land on the website, I look at it, I'm not interested, and I leave. They have very, very high bounce rates. And also, nobody's searching for a coach. Very few searches are done on Google for a coach. You can go and look, there's like under a couple of thousand a month search for a coach, compared to about 15 million a month who search for a counsellor, for example. And the reason for that is people know what a counsellor does. People don't know what a coach does. And so when we're marketing ourselves, we don't talk about our coaching. We don't talk about the coaching process. We don't talk about our coaching qualifications, because they don't care. They only care about what's in it for them. So we talk about them. We talk about the problem that they've got. We talk about what their lives will look like without that problem, and we invite them into a conversation with us. So that would be your Delenta landing page. If you made that change and then drive traffic to that website, that landing page, you'd be amazed at the difference. So the last part that we need to talk about, we've talked about why you should niche. We've talked about what your client needs to hear. They need to hear what's in it for them. Speaking your client's language is about making sure that the person that you're talking to, this client that you're talking to, is somebody do understand that you've picked a niche where you have some credibility. And that's what I mean by speaking their language. So the last part of this is, well, where is your client? Where are they? Now, this is one of the really good benefits of niching, is that if you know who your client is, then you know where to find them. Because if, for example, your client is, well, let's say they're a lawyer, they work in corporate law, then if we're looking at, for example, social media platforms, then probably not going to be on Snapchat or Instagram, not with their heads in the work game. They're going to be on LinkedIn, maybe. Now, I've had conversations with coaches who've gone, oh, well, I hate LinkedIn. I don't want to be on LinkedIn. I hate it. And here's the thing, it isn't about you and what you like. It's about where is your client? Because there is one star of your marketing show, and it's not you. The star of your marketing show is your client. So if your client is on LinkedIn, then you need to learn to love LinkedIn. And if your client is on a different social media platform, you need to learn to love that different social media platform. And so where your client is online will depend on who they are, on the demographics of the different social media platforms. And just as an aside, people say, do I have to market on social media? And the truth is, in the 21st century, yeah, you do have to have a presence on social media. I would be being disingenuous if I said you didn't. Do you have to be on every single social media platform? No, absolutely you don't. You only need to be where your client is, which is actually a bit of a relief, isn't it? So if, for example, your client is this corporate lawyer, then you don't need to go to small business networking events. You don't need to go ever again because your client's not there. So there's no need to spend your money networking in a place where your client isn't. where you need to be is maybe speaking at corporate events, or writing articles for the Law Society, or putting yourself in a space where your client is, rather than trying to spread yourself so thin that you are trying to be everywhere. You don't need to be everywhere if you have a target audience. You only need to be where they are. Coaches who finish coach training school tend to have an idea that there are two strands to marketing. One is to deliver fantastic strategy sessions and make them earth shattering, and then your client will want to pay you to reach the goals that you've talked about, which you will all know kind of doesn't really work as a marketing strategy on its own. And the other one that comes from coach training school is go out and network. Well, that's great, providing you have a strategy behind it, because, you know, your corporate lawyer isn't at a local business networking event. But if you haven't got a strategic approach to building your coaching business, and most coaches don't, what they do is they try to be everywhere, and it costs money, it's exhausting, it's soul destroying, and it just makes everybody unhappy. When I say everybody, I mean it makes coaches unhappy, because they work really, really hard, they don't get any results, and then after that 2 years they just go, do you know what, coaching is saturated and I'm going to go back to work for somebody else. And that is a real shame. Sam, I think you want to come back and ask some questions.
Yeah. I mean, I have quite a few questions came through actually. No, I mean, this is wonderful. I was listening carefully about all that. That very practical, isn't it? When you look at the aspects
Yeah.
of what we're talking about, it's nothing sort of a fluffy, duffy, no theory. Like, you know, it's actually you get traffic, you need to convert. You know, how are we going to convert? By communicating their language that they understand, that they can relate to, right?
You need to be inside their heads.
Exactly. It's psychology, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is your advice after that? For example, like you're talking about the Delenta landing page where we have a calendar, people basically sort of book discovery sessions, and then you have a 30-minute session with them. Like, so now what would you do? Like, what is the next step in that call? Like, do you have a sort of methodology that you can share to?
Yeah, I have a very good structure for a sales call. The sales call is never the problem, Sam. Coaches don't have a problem with the sales call. Coaches have a problem getting people to that sales call. I'm happy to give you my strategy for a sales call, because your client has come to you to talk to you about a very specific thing. You don't want to make your strategy call focused on whatever the client wants to. You need to make it focused on the problem that you market. So if you're marketing to, let's go back to our retiree. So if the problem that your coaching client has, or your potential coaching client has got, is that they're really worried about this idea of retiring, then that is what you want to coach them around. It only needs to be a 30-minute conversation. The first 20 minutes of it should be you exploring how that thing manifests in their life. What is it in particular that they're worried about? You know, just coach them. 20 minutes of get all of it out, get them to tell you how they feel. And once you know exactly how they feel, then you can talk to them about what working with you looks like. You can explain that this is exactly the kind of thing that you work with your clients, and these are the kinds of outcomes that your clients can reasonably expect. And the way that you can talk about outcomes that your clients can reasonably expect is, again, remembering we're on the marketing side of your business and not the delivery side.
No.
With the marketing side, there is an assumption that you have to set off from. And that assumption is that you will turn up to those sessions and you will be the very best coach that you are, and you will do everything that's required. And you have to assume on the marketing side that they will take all the actions that they agree. So providing they take all the actions that they agree, then they will achieve the outcome that you can talk about.
Right.
And then you tell them what it costs to work with you, which should not be a surprise to them. There's none of this. You shouldn't be hiding your coaching fees until you've proved the value of your coaching. They should know what your coaching fees are before they ever get to a conversation with you, even if it's an invitation that's a reply to their booking on your Delenta landing page, they've booked an appointment with you, the email should say, here you go, just so you know, this is what my fees are, da-da-da-da-da, because it's better not to have the conversation with somebody who can't afford you than to spend half an hour with somebody who goes, oh, that was lovely, but I can't afford you. And nobody likes that situation where the client goes, how much? It never happens again if you're open with your fees.
Yeah, no, I can so relate to that, because I think at the beginning when we created that, even the sort of landing page in the discovery session one, somebody's requested us to add coaching package kind of drop down menu. So, for example, which coaching package that you're interested in, so they can see the prices, the
Yeah,
details before they even book a session.
yeah.
With the coach.
You
So
must be very clear with your pricing.
yeah.
Nobody doesn't want to know the price of things. If there's a shop that doesn't have prices on it, I walk out. I'm it's not that I can't afford it, it's that I don't want to shop somewhere who thinks it's clever to just not be clear about what the prices are. There's nothing clever about withholding information.
Yeah, yeah, no, transparency is so important when it comes to pricing, right?
It's ethical. It's part of, it should be part of our coaching ethics that we are transparent, and that it does include our pricing.
Yes, yes, yes. And if you don't want to charge, be free, right? Like, I mean, not that, I advocate that, but at the same time, at least you can say that if you want to basically be involved. Would you sort of say that the same, or would you say, no, have a price for your service? What is your idea?
Have a price for your service. This is what I charge. I mean, it may be that you charge, let's say, £150 a session. There's no point booking one session because nobody ever gets an outcome from one session. So you want a minimum of 3 sessions. So
Right.
3 sessions, £450 as an introduction, maybe. So that person that's going to have that conversation with you is aware that that's the kind of expense they're going to need to pay. Because if you have a conversation with somebody and they go, oh yeah, this is great, yeah, great, and they've got a figure of 50 quid in their head, and you say 450 quid, they'll fall off their chair. And that's very uncomfortable for you, and it's uncomfortable for them. So just be transparent. There's nothing, you're a professional, you're allowed to charge professional rates, be transparent with them.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so that is really, clever idea. Now, from a new coach perspective, how do you price? Like, what's your pricing strategy? I know we are going to
It depends who your ideal client is.
Right.
This is the whole point of knowing exactly who your client is. If your client is a solicitor who's a senior partner in a law firm who's coming up for retirement, you can have a different figure than if your ideal client is a new graduate who's about to start their first job. Those two people will command very different fees. And there's no point charging £500 an hour to the student straight out of university because they can't pay it. There's no, you need your fees. There isn't a standard fee for coaching. There is no right or wrong fee for coaching, but your fee isn't decided by you. It's what your client is prepared to pay and can afford to pay to get rid of the problem that you are talking to them about. It's all linked. It is all linked.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, this is, I mean, the interesting part is, Sarah, I know that you're covering a lot of aspects in your programs with your mentees,
Yeah.
and these are the areas that sometimes coaches struggle.
Yeah. Oh,
with.
pricing is an absolute mind monkey. And it's, I can sit here now and say, well, it depends who your ideal client is. But obviously, when we're working with our clients, we go through it in great detail. We don't just go, oh, pick a figure. Who, what do you? But the truth is, it depends on who your client is. If you want to talk to me about that in great detail, I am very happy to do so. But the top level answer is your fee depends on the person that you're coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the flip side of that is, can I just say, don't
Sure.
suddenly go, oh, in which case I want to coach chief executives. Because if you don't have any credibility with chief executives,
Right.
you can say you charge whatever you like, and you can say you want to work with CEOs, but they are not going to take you seriously if you don't have any credibility within your background. Now, I've spoken to coaches about this who go, hang on a second, I can coach CEOs, I can coach anyone, I've got an ICF qualification. It's like, it's not to do with your qualification, it's to do with would a CEO find you credible? You can grow into it. You can start at a lower level and grow into coaching C-suite, but you have to have been very senior yourself and be uber specific with your marketing to be able to walk into C-suite coaching.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, one of the areas that in the sort of presentation that you covered, like in the sort of what you call this webinar landing page, when we put it out
Yeah.
there, is that finding your client on and offline, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does the offline part works?
Well,
So
that's what I was saying about networking events or conferences or writing in magazines, or it's what publications does your ideal client read? What books do they read? What do they listen to podcasts? Do they attend industry conferences? Are there any industry conferences coming up? What about exhibitions? Are there any exhibitions that are very specific to the industry in which your client works? So it's putting your client on, if you like, almost like a suit of clothes, and going, right, okay, where does this kind of person hang out?
right,
It's not tricksy. It's not like a sleight of hand thing. It's simply a case of, once you know who your client is, then figuring out where they are is not hard.
yeah,
It's when you don't know who your client is, so you're trying to be everywhere.
yeah.
Well, you can't possibly be everywhere without running out of time, energy, money, and momentum.
True. Because it's all these restrictions and everything's going around this crazy sort of time of the, I don't know, world right now we are in. So that's where you basically talk about like a social presence is so paramount for
Yeah.
your development of the business, right?
Before the pandemic, there were a subsection of coaches, tended to be very academic coaches, who would be extraordinarily scathing about the idea of working online. It was face to face or it was nothing. Online coaching was substandard. Now, that view has changed, funnily enough, and I have always coached online, and I have to confess, I'm only human. I did feel a bit smug when everybody moved online, and suddenly online coaching was great. I was like, yes, I've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's what coaching online means, of course, is that not only can you coach the people who are around the corner, but we can't see them because we're in lockdown in a pandemic, but we can work with people from all over the world. We do work with people from all over the world.
Yeah. No, this session, is a sort of eye opening if you look at the way you basically sort of develop into the situation where the coaches need to sort of be active on the social media. They have to be conscious about the communication, the language they use, etc., etc. But I know there's a sort of challenge coming up, right? From I think you're doing one
Yes.
up soon. I saw on your
Watch.
website. Yeah.
We're doing a 4-day challenge called Nail Your Niche.
Right.
It's going to be about exactly that: finding your niche, choosing your niche, which is the best niche for you. And it's 4 days, 4 tiny tasks, one a day, thinking to be done in between times, because it's always with the thinking, isn't it? It's like anything else. It's the stuff that happens when you're washing the pots or in the shower or driving or doing the things where your brain's in neutral. It's the thinking time that matters. And it's 4 days to get clear on where your niche is.
Wow. So almost like the same content that you covered, you're covering that in the most sort of
Yeah.
great
But
detail.
in very, very specific to each individual coach. Yeah.
Amazing. That's wonderful. So, do we have the details that we can share about the?
We don't, but you will have them, and you will be able to email them out.
All right. Okay. So watch out, guys. So you basically will get an email with the details, and of course, I follow Sarah's podcast, so I encourage you everybody to follow that. It's amazing. She has been great content to cover in specific areas of business development. That's where sort of very practical not theoretical advice. So I encourage you to follow that. On that note, I think, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing all that knowledge and wisdom. I know you have a party to go, and so we are between champagne and all
I've
that.
got a
So
glass of Prosecco waiting for me. I do.
there you go. Yeah, so wonderful. And we are of course in the UK. So it's evening for us. It's almost 8 o'clock. So everybody who's in Europe, like, have a lovely evening. People in the States, have a lovely day. And we will do more events like this in the future, every month at least, and follow up on social media, and you will get more information about these kind of events. And we bring more speakers like Sarah to talk about and share their knowledge and experience. And Sarah, thank you so much again. So grateful that you joined with us today.
You're very welcome. It was lovely to be here. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Thank you. Bye.